Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us at the market site in Times Square, New York City, we have Dan Miller. He's the CEO of Steward. We're going to take a look at crowdfunding for sustainable farm investing. Dan, it's great to have you with us at market site. And if you're catching us live here, Davos, a big part of the conversation there is sustainability and ESG. And we cover a lot of investment vehicles at Nasdaq. This is my first time actually covering something with investing in farms with sustainable practices via crowdfunding. Tell us more about the platform.
Correct. So Steward was created to give people the chance to invest in sustainable agriculture. So people can come to the platform, invest directly in farms practicing regenerative agriculture, or invest in funds that spread across all the farms. The idea is build those connections between individuals and the farms. And as you've said with ESG investing, people are trying to invest in these asset classes. This presents it right to them, direct to the farm that they can support.
All right, now traditional funding is typically not readily available for sustainable farms.
Correct. Most funding is driven by government policy, so large industrialized commodity production is where most funding goes. If you're alternative, smaller scale, diversified, regenerative, that's when you're cut out of the financing system.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's one thing to put your money behind an ETF or an index that has ESG guidelines, but to actually go straight from farm to table, as they say, and invest and get to know the farm is really interesting. A lot of investors don't have that opportunity. So tell us about the variety of investment options that you have.
So there's two main investment products. You can invest in the Steward Farm Trust. That's a mortgage REIT spread across a portfolio of loans to these farms. Or you can invest in an individual farm. You basically make a loan, participation in a loan to a single farm. So our view is we need to get capital directly to these farmers. They have positive impacts on the environment, health and wellness, soil. ETFs and funds are nice, but ultimately the capital needs to get farther down to the private businesses on the ground doing the work.
All right, now what does that look like in terms of liquidity, in terms of the return that you get on these investments?
Most of the loans are 5-year loans, 8 to 10% interest rates, high yield loans. And then at the end of maturity, they'll refinance the loan. So there's a fixed, normally 5-year term with interest payments and then principal at the end.
All right, now for farmers, they're clearly benefiting from this. So tell us a little bit more about the farmer benefits and what we're looking at in the background here.
So the farmers really need access to capital. There's been huge growth in demand for sustainable agricultural products. So they're selling more products than ever. There's more people that want to buy their products, but they can't get capital to grow their business. Buy land, irrigation, hoop houses, fencing. So without that funding, they can't get their production up to meet demand. So we're filling the gap, taking the individuals that are purchasing those products and taking them one step further and actually funding the farm.
All right, now are there parameters? You have to have a certain amount of income or liquid assets because 5 years is a long time to hold money up, particularly as we go through investment cycles. Tell us about that, what the minimum terms are, and then how much have you raised so far?
So we vet all the farms. We do site visits for every farm. They at least have a minimum of 3 years experience. These are people already farming who've established their markets who now need capital to take the next step. So we do all the due diligence in-house. We have a network of farmers that work for us, that speak to the farmers. So we've really put a lot of effort into making sure they're good candidates and investments that will support themselves. So far, we've raised $3 million across 16 farm loans across the U.S. We've had 1,200 applications over the past year. The demand for farmers is everywhere, and now we've recently launched these investment products to allow people to invest in the farms.
That's so interesting. Give us a little bit of your background. What was the genesis behind this idea?
So my mother's family's been farming in the Chesapeake Bay since the late 1800s. So that was my roots. I grew up in D.C. off the farm, but connected to that. And then previously I founded a company called Fundrise. It was the first real estate crowdfunding platform in the US. So that's been built into a huge organization, and I wanted to focus my efforts towards agriculture and sustainability. So Steward's a sustainable investment platform that gives people the chance to take their capital and put it right towards sustainable farms.
All right, great stuff. Thanks for joining us at Market Site.
Thanks so much.
And thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.